The August jobs report comes in as a mixed bag. There was some good information in there along with some underwhelming data. The final jobs report is in before the Fed's pivotal rate meeting in a couple of weeks, and it did not disappoint. Well, it kind of did disappoint, but it sets us up for a rate cut in a couple of weeks. Now, in this video, we're going to deep dive into this August jobs report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, before we get started, let me just say that if you like content like this, leave me a comment down below letting me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe for more content like this and hit that thumbs up button for me. The August job report is in, and it was sort of like a mixed bag. Some of the information that came in was underwhelming, while other data actually looked quite good. Now, to start, the economy added fewer jobs than was expected. There was 142,000 jobs that were added on this report, and for reference, economists were expecting for there to be 165,000 jobs added. But the unemployment rate also went down on this report. It went down to 4.2%, down from 4.3%, and there was a revision to the June and the July data as well, but there was 86,000 fewer jobs that were added in those 2 months than were initially reported. So again, a mixed bag. Some of the information looks good with unemployment going down, while the numbers that we were expecting were not as high, and also the numbers that were previously reported were too high and were actually lower. Basically, what we can gather from this data, from this information, the labor market is telling us that there is some weakness out there. There are some cracks in the foundation, but it is still going. And now wage growth, which is one thing that's kind of, you look at it as far as how inflation is doing, it was up only 0.4% compared to 0.2% the month before. So, this information wasn't necessarily for inflation, but wage growth kind of going up, which, if you're a working class person, yeah, you should be making more money. And economists were kind of mixed. Again, on all of this information, you had a few calls for a recession and, doomsday type of economists that whenever numbers come in lower than expected, they have to say what they have to say. But there was a lot of economists out there as well that kind of use soft landing as the type of language that they, this information doesn't spell a recession, but it goes to show us that we are still on that landing curve, before we start to pivot the other way. And, so economists, again, very mixed on this stuff. There are some that are using this and calling for a 0.5 rate cut, that jumbo rate cut, saying the Fed needs to be aggressive here in order for things to not get out of hand and for things to get really bad, while other economists are sort of saying that no, this information, it's mixed, unemployment is down, you could go with the 0.25 and you're going to be just fine. So it seems like economists aren't really in agree. You have opinions all over the place, and that is normal for there to, but based off all of the data that's in, remember, this was the big report. We've been getting a whole bunch of information earlier this week from different job report revisions to previous thing, private payroll, and all this is non-farm payroll that we're talking about here, but there's the unemployment, how many jobs were added, and I pay attention to all this. I look at all of these different reports, and I kind of read what different economists and people are saying, and a lot of them are not in agreement. You have people that will use all this to kind of highlight that we are in a downturn, and kind of the language that they use is more kind of scary, while you have other people that say this is a rebalancing, a soft landing, and this is what the economy should be doing before the pivot. And more importantly, with all of the information laid out on the table now, what is the Fed gonna do with all of this information? A lot of people were saying, and I did as well, that it was gonna be this job report that was gonna ultimately lead to the Fed's decision, that they were not decided until this information came out, because this was going to, close to September. What did the numbers look like right at that time? And I personally still think that a 0.25 rate cut is the appropriate thing to do. Now, I would understand if a 0.5 rate cut was to happen. I understand, the need to be aggressive and to try to send a message and, to prevent things from, continuing to tumble down if the market is showing clear signs of weakness, the labor market, which it is. There's no debating that or arguing that it isn't. The labor market is cooling off. If the Fed wants to be aggressive and do a 0.5 rate cut to kind of stimulate things and get them back on track, then sure, I understand that. But I do think that a 0.25 rate cut right now and potentially some more rate cuts down the line at the end of the year, it is enough to stimulate things, to get things going. First of all, it's going to send a message. Interest rates are going to go down and businesses are going to borrow. They're going to invest in employment, and it's going to have a positive effect for the economy. And again, remember, and I've said this in other videos, but those effects aren't going to be felt right away when a rate cut takes place. It could be 6 months, 9 months, even down the line that the full effects are felt. It'll be felt throughout time, but it's going to take some time for the economy, for the numbers to show what these rate cuts mean. But I do think a 0.25, it's enough of a pivot. But if they do go with a 0.5, I completely understand you. I think, they're going to look at all this information. They're going to dissect it, every little detail. Where were the numbers added? Why is, IT and manufacturing certain things down while other things aren't? And they're going to all sit down, talk about it, and make their decision in a couple weeks. We know a rate cut is coming. The big question is it going to be 0.25 or is it going to be 0.5? If you like content like this, leave a comment down below letting me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe for more content like this and hit that thumbs up button for me.